Welcome to Political Beatdown. I'm Ben Meiselas, joined by Michael Cohen. Is the Trump regime the most dangerous administration in the history of the United States? True regime. Is it the most incompetent, the dumbest, the stupidest? Let's go through just some facts here. And, first, when it comes to being briefed on probably the most important issues if you are a commander in chief, like, the fact that 4 American soldiers tragically died in Lithuania, and you as the president are too busy posting on Truth Social or social media to know about what's even going on or to even be getting briefed on this issue. And how about the people who are supposed to be briefing you, like the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth? This was yesterday in the Oval Office when Donald Trump was asked about the soldiers in Lithuania, American soldiers who died. Donald Trump's like, I don't know. Here, play this clip.
But it could be a defective platform, and we're going to have to find that out.
Mr. President, have you been briefed about soldiers in Lithuania?
Say it.
Have you been briefed about the soldiers in Lithuania?
I'm not sure why that clip was cut short there, but he says, I don't know. I want to go back. Were you able to see that whole clip, or did that clip just cut off very short? I'm not really sure what happened there.
Oh, I saw that clip. It's been played on television over and over and over again. All I can turn around and say is this isn't the one and only time that the guy is just claiming that he has not been advised, that he doesn't know. Well, my question to you that I would ask, Ben, if he doesn't know, well, who does? And who's technically running the country then? I mean, you would think that after soldiers are missing for, 3-4 days, and people are asking the question, shouldn't the president of the United States be briefed? You know what I call that, Ben? I call it a lose-lose situation. If he tells the truth, he's going to lose. And if he continues to lie, he lose again.
So he now knows about it, right? He was told. So he's at least even though we all knew about it before because it was in the news, he's not getting briefed on it. He's asked about 4 American soldiers who died abroad. So if you were a leader of an organization and I found out of my organization, people died in it, I would say, I'm going to get to the bottom of this. I take it as seriously as can be. My heart goes out to, the family members. That he goes, nah, I don't know. I don't even know. And then after Cohen, he doesn't post about it. There's no statements about it. He's attacking Judge Boasberg, the Washington, D.C. chief judge. He's attacking Europe and Canada. He can't spend 20 seconds to say something to the family members and the nation about 4 soldiers who died.
He can't, because remember how he attacked Biden for the 13 soldiers on the in Afghanistan during the evacuation, right? So here you have 4 soldiers, right, in Turkey that are now missing, along with their tank, which I believe they found the tank now. It was in some sort of a swampy pond or something like that. If he goes ahead, it's on his watch. So he would rather that we all forget that there are 4 soldiers that are missing than to acknowledge that 4 soldiers in what would we call it? A search and rescue mission are now missing under his watch.
And then he's asked about, of course, Signalgate, the war plans that were leaked on a Signal text thread where Trump's national security advisor and Secretary of Defense invited the editor-in-chief, Jeffrey Goldberg, from The Atlantic. And so yesterday, Trump was asked, do you still believe that nothing classified was shared? Here's Donald Trump's response. Let's play it.
But I don't think they're quite.
Nothing classified was shared?
Say it.
Do you still believe nothing classified was shared?
Well, that's.
I guess all the clips are going to be cut short on this episode today, but we could fill in the blank. Donald Trump says that.
Who's blocking you now that Midas has become number 1? Who's playing with Midas?
Right. He goes, well, that's what I've heard. I don't know. And again, it's another thing. I don't know. And then you have Donald Trump praising Hegseth and saying he's doing a great job. He had nothing to do with this. Why are you saying anything bad about Hegseth? He had nothing to do about it. Then I'll narrate what the clips say. Then Hegseth was asked about it, and he's like doing these weird like motions with his mouth, like he's like doing like weird shit with his cheek, and like he's like licking everything. He's like, and so I'm gonna do my Hegseth impression. He's like, look, nobody's texting war plans, okay? I noticed this morning out came something that doesn't look like a war plan. As a matter of fact, they even changed the title to attack plans. Okay, everybody, not fake news.
Do you think that he had Ben? Do you think he had chew in his cheek or something like that? You know, because what really offended me the most, out of all of this was that sort of Fox News smirk that he had on his face. This is not a joke. We're talking about on day number one, you are during the initiation or the inauguration, whatever that they call that you go in and you sit, they tell you, you do not use your personal phone for government affairs. You do not use encrypted apps on government affairs. Why? Because there's also something called the Records Act. And all of those documents belong not to Trump, not to Pete Hegseth, not to DOD, but to the American people. You may recall that that's what happened when Trump was ultimately charged with the Mar-a-Lago documents case. They don't belong to them. They belong to the American people. And as anybody who has a signal knows, you decide how long you want those messages to remain. And once those messages are deleted, they are deleted, which means you have an incomplete record. And you have an incomplete record here on a military operation. And nobody should be lying to you and telling you that this was not a military operation. It most certainly was.
Well, we have the evidence to show you. Y'all can judge for yourself. Are you going to trust Hegseth and Trump, or are you going to trust your own eyes and ears and common sense? Because here is the message that Hegseth sent. Time now, 11:44 Eastern Time. Weather is favorable. Just confirmed with CENTCOM. We are a go for mission launch. 12:15 Eastern Time. F-18s launch. First strike package. 13:45. Trigger-based F-18s first strike window starts. Target terrorist is at his known location, so should be on time. Also, strike drones launch, MQ-9s. 14:10, more F-18s launch. Second strike package, 14:15, strike drones on target. This is when the first bombs will definitely drop, pending earlier trigger-based targets. 15:36, F-18 second strike starts. Also, first sea-based Tomahawks launched. So, Cohen, I had the opportunity to speak with Democratic Congressmember Jim Himes. He's the ranking member of the House Intelligence Committee. If the Democrats take back the House, Congressmember Himes will chair the Intelligence Committee. Big job. And he had such a profoundly interesting and accurate, astute take on it. He was like, you know what Hegseth is doing there and also why he's doing it? Because he's also playing like warrior. He's playing war. And he's giving the secrets, but he wants to show like how powerful he is on this text thread. So he's like, you could almost picture Hegseth going, time now, weather good, CENTCOM go, F-18s, they're a launch, target based, F-18s, MQ-9s, that's the package. And this is why, though, Cohen, Brigaders, Midas Mighty, why character matters in positions. You need the right character, experience, skill, reputation to be able to handle these jobs. This is not a laughing matter, although we can mock Hegseth's conduct and Mike Waltz's conduct and Tulsi Gabbard, but at its core, this is a big job, and Hegseth is a tiny person. I heard this as well, Cohen. There's not a government in the entire world, including the bad guys, including the Russias and the Kim Jong-uns, where behavior like this would not go unpunished.
Of course.
In the Trump regime, where something like this is just viewed as whatever. There would be clearly different consequences if you were a general, let's say in Russia, and you did this, or a general in North Korea. Certainly, if you were actually our real allies, not who Trump wants our allies to be, the axis of evil, but if you were real allies, you'd fired criminal prosecutions immediately. And we learned, Cohen, Pam Bondi, the Department of Justice, the FBI, Kash Patel says, absolutely no investigations. They said there's nothing wrong. We will not be investigating this at all. We think this was great conduct.
You know what it reminded me of, Ben, when you were playing out Pete Hegseth, on the microphone, orchestrating the thing. It reminded me of like the movie, you'll remember it, called Airplane, right? Where it's like, we have clearance, Clarence. What's your vector, Victor? Roger, Roger. Huh? Right? And they're all sitting there and they're like, what the hell is this guy talking about? But of all of the people on that text chain, on that signal chat chain, the one that I found to be the stupidest of them all. And, you brought something up, that these guys are all dumb and so on. They're not dumb, right? Let me be clear. They're not dumb. What they are is that they're incompetent and that they're liars. That's the worst part, right? It's one thing if they were dumb, I'd give them a break. It's not your fault if you're stupid, right? It just happens. But these guys are not stupid. What they are is they're dishonest, and worse than that, they're incompetent. And that to me is a big problem. But the one who really, really I found to be the weirdest of them all goes to J.D. Vance. One word answers. You're the vice president of the United States who's being included on a signal chat chain. You, sir, of all people, should know better than the rest of these incompetent fools. You should know better that this is not proper. This is not where you want to have your conversation on an operation, on a war operation plan, whereby how about one person turning around and saying, wait, who's this guy, Jeff Goldberg, right? And more than Jeff Goldberg, why are you telling us exactly strike times, locations, and the military? I mean, shouldn't the vice president know that this is improper? Shouldn't somebody be saying to the group, you know what? This may not be the right place. Why don't we all just meet up or figure out a way how to have a secure conversation? Because there are lives of our service members on the line. Isn't there one person with a tiny drop of seichel? And the answer is sadly no. No, because Trump traded competence for fealty.
And look, just so everybody can see it, pull that up, Jeremy, the Houthi PC small group. So that's what it looked like if you were in the Signal chat thread, right? So many people at home, you probably created group chats before, right? And you label it like family, friends, we have one here, Political Beatdown, right? So we all know the way this works. The person who creates the chat can add people to the chat. And so you can see here, it says Mike Waltz added you to the group. That's the National Security Advisor, Mike Waltz. And we're looking at the screen from Jeffrey Goldberg. So it's not a mystery here how Jeffrey Goldberg got added. Mike Waltz added you to the group. And now all these people in the Trump regime are like, oh, we're going to need Daddy Elon to get to the bottom of this. Can Elon figure out if this was a hack? This was a hack, wasn't it? No. I mean, literally, Mike Waltz added you to the group. And then Mike Waltz says, team, establishing a principals group for coordination on Houthis, particularly over the next 72 hours. My deputy, Alex Wong, is pulling together a Tiger team at deputies agency, chief of staff level, following up from the meeting. So this is not some, Scooby-Doo is far more complex than figuring out this mystery right here, right? You take a look at it. The answer is...
Okay, Ben. Okay. Real good.
I wonder how this
Right,
happened
right,
there, Michael
right.
Cohen.
I'm gonna go dropping bombs on
Jeffrey
somebody.
Goldberg
Right,
hacked into it.
Right?
Maybe there was
We're
something
gonna go drop
nefarious
some
here, Michael.
bombs.
Maybe there was something nefarious going on.
Okay.
Here, right?
Ruby doo. And you know
and
what
then
Pete
you have-
Hegseth is getting for such a good job? A Scooby snack.
He gets a Scooby. Oh, thank you now.
Okay,
like,
thank you.
okay, done. Like, can't you imagine though, Hegseth, like actually, like, well, I won't paint the imagery. You get it. It's the point is made. However, then Mike Walls, National Security Advisor, he goes on Laura Ingraham, and he's like, you know what this is like? Like, this is like when you send like naughty pictures to like your aunt. Like, you know, when you send the pictures that you don't want to send to your aunt. Okay. We've all done it before.
No.
I'm watching this and I'm just like, what are you? And then you have all the Fox propaganda hosts like, this story is over. Let's move on. This is
you
a
talking
deep
about Jesse Waters?
Jesse Waters.
Classic stupidity by Jesse Waters. No joke. This ordeal, it's not about whether or not he thinks and is determining in his infinite wisdom that this conversation should be over. We are very fortunate, and I say that legitimately. We are very fortunate that it was Jeff Goldberg who was added and not some foreign news agency or somebody else that would have published it. Remember, these plans were at least like 6+ hours in advance of the operation going forward. It could have, but thank God didn't cause extreme damage to our military.
But Cohen, let me push back there. How do we know? I've heard that line before. That fortunately it didn't. We would
know. We would know.
Would we?
Yeah,
Donald Trump
because
doesn't even know that.
If God forbid a military service member like the 4 that are missing in Turkey, if something happened, we would know, right?
You think we would know if a CIA asset got killed by an enemy? You think we would know if one of our covert look, the 4 Lithuanians we know about because the the Secretary General of NATO, Mark Rutte, knew about it because it was part of a joint NATO-Trump operation. It was part of a joint thing. Do you think we would know? I mean, what's going on? What don't we know? Here's the thing, Cohen.
Right.
That clearly wasn't the only time that this is taking place.
That's the point I wanted to make.
They clearly have, I'll let you make it, but they're doing this all the time. So what else don't we know? And who's been compromised right now? What does Russia, North Korea, China have on us?
Yeah, so let me add to what you were just saying there, Ben, because the thing that we should all fear is not what we know, but what we don't know. We know about their usage of Signal, despite the fact they have all been told not to, because of this blunder that was made by Mike Walls. This we know. Here's the question, though. They're in office now 69 days. How many other missions, operations, communications with this group of 19 or 20 took place? Maybe there's a Middle Eastern, a Hamas conversation going on Signal about some future operation. Maybe there's one with Iran. Maybe there's one with whomever that we don't know. That's the part that we need to be concerned about. And let me just tell you why. And yes, you are right. They are buffoons. Here's the reason why we all need to be concerned. Why, despite what Jesse Waters wants to say, this conversation is not over and an investigation is desperately needed. Because Steve Witkoff, Middle Eastern envoy, guy who I know for over 2 decades, good guy, happened to be in the Kremlin at the time that these communications are going forward. And anybody that knows anything about Russia, the second that you enter into Russia, your phones are already, especially as a foreigner, your phones are being cloned. They have the ability within which to get into your phone. They know more about what's going on in terms of this group of idiots than we do. In fact, I can assure you that Russia now knows more about these different signal communications than even the president of the United States. And if that doesn't scare the living shit out of you, I don't know what will.
It's always interesting too, though, Cohen, because you say Witkoff, you know him, good guy. I'm going to push back on you because he may have been once upon a time, but he did the reverse mea culpa, right? He saw your experience, he saw the experience of others. And what did Witkoff say? Witkoff's a real estate guy from New York. He's not an international negotiator of issues. Well, he's a lawyer, real estate guy, from New York. So Cohen, he had the ability to see what you went through. And his decision after all of this was, you know what? Not me. That's not going to happen to me. I want the power. I'm going to be the guy who goes and does the negotiations with Putin. And now he finds himself in a situation that is really, he's in Russia, he's in Moscow. He's now claiming he didn't use his personal phone when he was inside the Kremlin. Who knows? But he had that signal chat, at least while he was in Russia. Doesn't seem like he was in a skiff when he was sending those messages. Here's someone, though, Cohen, who comes back from the Kremlin spewing Putin talking points now to appease Donald, right? He comes back and he's like, well, Putin says that Donald was a courageous guy, and I believe Putin that he's not going to go after Europe. I believe. So you have someone who speaking of people who shouldn't be in Russia doing that negotiation with the Kremlin, you've got a New York real estate lawyer in Witkoff thinking that he's some chess master negotiator, peddling Putin talking points. And what's happening? Well, today, Europe, led by France, who's leading a coalition of the willing, they're basically like, done. U.S. done. Not a reliable ally. See you later. We're creating our own defense pact. What did they say in Canada? Mark Carney, Prime Minister of Canada, says in a statement today, United States is not reliable. We're through with them. We're done with the U.S. A public statement.
Could you imagine?
And now you have Witkoff, this guy, this New York real estate lawyer, Witkoff, I'm going to, literally Benedict Arnold. Like literally now his legacy is for as Putin's stooge and engaging in this type of crap because Cohen, he wanted the proximity to power. Your mea culpa, your warning was not enough for a guy like
what? And it's more than proximity to power. Look, he's known Trump for many, many years. Everybody's, that they're longtime friends. Witkoff actually worked for Trump many, many years ago as a lawyer in the company before going out and becoming a real estate developer on his own. What they're really interested in, this whole group, despite the fact that they all have more money than they could spend in 100 lifetimes, it's more money. As you may have heard, Witkoff, I guess it's via his son, they are now going to be running some crypto exchange with Trump's kids and so on, which is basically where they intend to take our gold reserves and turn them into a crypto reserve. I mean, this is one gigantic grift that this country, the world, has never seen. And the worst part is that they are doing it right in our faces, literally to our faces. And people still just sit there and goes, yeah, I like what Trump's doing. Did you see that young girl, that student from Tufts University? You see those 6 FBI agents that turned around, begged her, tagged her, threw her into the black Suburban, and now they ignored the judge's decision not to remove her from Massachusetts, and she's sitting in some cell, in Louisiana. Yeah, that's right. Donnie said he's going to do it. He's going to do it while they're robbing the country blind.
Take a look at this, Cohen. Kristi Noem, Homeland Security Secretary, flew out to El Salvador, which has a GDP of around $30 billion a year compared to the U.S., which was $32 trillion, although who knows what our GDP is going to be as Donald Trump takes our economy. And so she's cosplaying in front of the El Salvador concentration camp. And let me show you what she says. Let's play this clip.
I also want everybody to know, if you come to our country illegally, this is one of the consequences you could face. First of all, do not come to our country illegally. You will be removed and you will be prosecuted. But know that this facility is one of the tools in our toolkit that we will use.
One of the tools in our toolkit is going to be sending you to a concentration camp, even if you're actually not a Tren de Aragua gang member. Cohen, we've been covering this. Others have been doing a really good job covering this as well. All of the migrants who were kidnapped in the United States, who were here lawful asylum seekers who fled political persecution in Venezuela, came to the United States. They were awaiting court hearings, and because they had some type of tattoo, they were labeled Tren de Aragua. And now they're people sitting in the concentration camps in El Salvador. People like Neri Alvarado, working in Dallas as a baker. An ICE agent told him they were questioning all men with tattoos. Neri has an autism awareness tattoo in honor of his 15-year-old brother with autism. An ICE agent told Neri Alvarado, quote, "We're finding and questioning everyone who has tattoos," and that's why he was arrested. Stunningly, after Neri explained his autism tattoo's meaning, the ICE agent said he was clean, and yet he stayed detained, then got sent to a concentration camp in El Salvador. How about another man who was sent to the concentration camp in El Salvador? Arturo Suarez, a Venezuelan musician who first entered the U.S. at a port of entry, not illegally. No criminal record here or in any country, but like Neri Alvarado, he has tattoos. Mr. Suarez goes by the stage name Suarez Vizla and has been performing since 2019. Like many others, he left Venezuela when the country's economy collapsed, seeking better opportunities. He has a wife and a baby back home. The way we all found out that he was in the concentration camp was his family recognized him in the picture of the detainees. You also have Andres, the gay hairstylist from Venezuela, who fled as well. Political persecution here lawfully. He was thrown into a concentration camp. The Time magazine photographer who was at the concentration camp at the time recorded what this individual said. "I'm not a gang member. I'm gay. I'm a barber." And then he went on to say, I'm not a gang member. Please don't do anything to me. He started asking for his mom as he was beat by the prisoners at the concentration camp. Their women were sent to this concentration camp, and they were not given due process. These people would have been able to show that they are not gang members had they been given a modicum of process, any process at all. Instead, the Trump regime is making ISIS-style videos of people who they're kidnapping so that they say, oh, well, if you're here, this is a tool in our toolkit. Freaking concentration camps. And they're doing this while they're also gutting Social Security, closing 47 Social Security offices, gutting Medicaid, getting rid of Medicaid, basically, $800 billion in cuts, firing federal workers, hostile takeover of the federal government, firing veterans. And what we're seeing, and this is what I want to talk about in the next segment also, people are pissed. Democrats, Republicans, independents. We saw in Pennsylvania, in Lancaster County, which has not voted for a Democrat state senator since 1889. It flipped blue in the special election this week. And the Democratic candidate, James Malone, he ran on, we need to stop Doge and Musk. There's a big race in Wisconsin, Supreme Court seat, April 1st. There's a big special election coming up in Florida, April 1st. Cohen, let's talk. Two of them. Let's talk about
Walz and the seat from Matt Gaetz.
And we saw what happened today with Elise Stefanik, where she had a plus 21 Trump district.
Yep.
And the Trump administration, the regime, was afraid they were going to lose that seat in New York. So they withdrew Elise Stefanik's nomination to be the United States ambassador to the United Nations. It's kind of the ultimate karma when you think about it, because she went full MAGA. She was a Bob Dole Republican, went full MAGA so she can get this role. And now she will not be the United States ambassador to the United Nations. And while Pete Hegseth's the Secretary of Defense. Cohen, we got a lot to discuss. I want to remind everybody about your YouTube channel at The Michael Cohen Show. Make sure you subscribe there. Michael Cohen's on Substack as well. We're on Substack at the Midas Touch Network. Also, Mea Culpa Blue. Search Mea Culpa wherever you get your audio podcasts. Michael's got some great guests there as well.
I got Scaramouche coming on first thing tomorrow. Drops at midnight.
You got Mooch. You know that's going to be a good episode when you got Mooch.
Yeah.
I'm excited for that. We have one quick break today. We'll be back. We've got a lot to discuss. Let's take the quick break.
Throughout my life, I literally drink one type of a drink, a specific 12-year single malt scotch. And the truth is, I've never had more than 2 in a single night. And I can remember when I was around like 15 years old, I had more than 2 one night, and I woke up the next day with a massive headache. So if you're one of those people who partakes, let's just say a little more than you should, here's something that you should know. Sol's out-of-office THC beverages, they work as an alternative because first, they're low-calorie. Second, they're gluten-free. And most importantly, they don't cause hangovers. Now, I just want to say thank you to Sol, who's sponsoring this podcast. And if you listen to this show, you've heard me rave about Sol's out-of-office gummies. Well, the team at Sol, they just launched their new out-of-office beverages that are perfectly microdosed with hemp-derived THC and CBD to give any situation that vacation vibe. The out-of-office beverages, they not only come in 2 mouth-watering flavors, raspberry lemonade and cucumber melon lime, they also offer 2 different doses. You can get 2.5 milligram THC and 5 milligram THC. So feel the freedom to choose with 6, 12, or 24 packs so that you can drink your THC in any way that you like. Now, out-of-office beverages, they give you that warm, that fuzzy, that euphoric microdose feeling without sending you to the moon. And you could crack one open after a hard day at work, wind down with your favorite TV show, or just merely share a 6-pack with friends at your next hangout. I mean, truly, whatever floats your boat. And here's a little fun fact. Sol was founded 5 years ago by brother and sister duo Mike and Angie. Mike is a former world-ranked professional boxer, and Angie is an author and professional speaker who had the desire to create natural alternatives to medication that tackles problems that they were dealing with themselves, like sleeplessness, anxiety, focus, and pain. And that's not all. That's not all that Sol's got. So whether you're looking for a sleep aid, enhanced focus, or pain relief, Sol has all your wellness needs covered. Plus, all of Sol's products are grown right here in the USA, organically farmed, and again, gluten-free. So if you want to feel your best, head over to getsol.com. That's GETSOUL.com and use code BEAT, B-E-A-T, for 30% off your order. That's 30% off your order using code BEAT. One last time, getsol.com and code BEAT, B-E-A-T, for 30% off.
Welcome back to Political Beatdown. I'm Ben Meiselas, joined by Michael Cohen. Great ad reads by Cohen. Discount codes are in the description below, as always, for our sponsors. Thank you to our sponsors for supporting our pro-democracy media company. We don't have outside investors, so goes a long way to help. Hey, Michael Cohen, let's show that clip. We now have it loaded. Here's Jesse Waters trying to kind of cover this all up and bringing on guests who are like, it's a hoax, it's a hoax. Here, let's play this clip.
Well, this is like Trump throws 20 touchdowns in a row and he finally throws a pick 6. And that's what everybody wants to talk about. And the only way you get people to stop talking about it is you throw another touchdown. Now, I don't know what that's going to look like, but he's got to throw another touchdown, and he's got to throw it fast. No one outside of D.C. and in the news business really cares about this story. There's no video. There's no sex. There's no fraud. No one even knows what a Houthi is. People know who bin Laden is. People know what ISIS is. No one knows what a Houthi is.
Let me show you what Laura Ingraham is saying. Here, play.
You know,
this clip.
it's really demeaning if you think about it, right? Only he knows because he's just so smart, and the rest of us are all so stupid.
Laura Ingraham, then let's chat about it. Let's play this clip.
You know, I was thinking about this. I've been in Washington a long time. This is all a sad repeat of what Republicans have been dealing with since around 1987. Yeah, I worked in the Reagan administration in 1987. From the Bork hearings to Iran-Contra to the Russian collusion to the myriad anti-Trump hoaxes, Charlottesville, January 6th. It's one long slash and burn campaign. Democrats didn't really care about any of the underlying issues involving any of those stories. They cared about gaining a political advantage.
Now, let me show you some other, let's round this out and then let's talk about it. Tulsi Gabbard testified before the Senate. She was asked by Senator Warner about the materials that we showed, the war plans, clear war plans. Here's what the Director of National Intelligence had to say. Play this clip.
Contact the Defense Secretary or others after this specific military planning was put out and say, hey, we should be doing this in a skiff?
There was no classified material that was shared in that.
So then if there was no
check.
classified material, share it with the committee. You can't have it both ways. These are important jobs. This is our national security. Bobbing and weaving and trying to, filibuster your answer. So please answer.
Well, you see the chat right there. Here, Tulsi Gabbard refuses to answer Warner's question about the Signal group chat. Let's play this clip.
Director Gabbard, did you participate in the group chat with Secretary of Defense and other Trump senior officials discussing the Yemen war plans?
Senator, I don't want to get into the specifics.
Ma'am, were you on? You're not going to be willing to address. So you're not, are you denying, will you answer my question, ma'am? You were not TG on this group chat?
I'm not going to get into the specifics.
So you refuse to acknowledge whether you were on this group chat?
Senator, I'm not going to get into the specifics.
Why are you going to get into the specifics? Is it because it's all classified?
Because this is currently under review by the National Security
Because
Council.
it's all classified? If it's not classified, share the text now.
As the White House previously
Is it classified or non-classified information on this text?
I can confirm.
Director Radcliffe, were you on the group chat?
Meanwhile, she's posting Russian propaganda on her personal account right now, like as we speak. Like over the past few weeks, she's reposting Russian propaganda. She's asked about that by Congress member Jim Himes, the ranking Democrat of the Intelligence Committee. Let's play it.
You, on March 15th, as DNI, retweeted a post from Ian Miles Chong, who is listed on RT, that's Russia Today's website, as, quote, a political and cultural commentator who has contributed content to RT since at least 2022. Director Gabbard, do you think that it's responsible for you as head of the intelligence community and the principal presidential intelligence advisor to retweet posts from individuals affiliated with Russian state media?
That retweet came from my personal account, and I would have to go back to look at the substance of the tweet.
Can I, just so that we don't have a lack of confusion amongst our allies and enemies and us, can I act perhaps that you not think that you should be saying one thing on your personal account than you say officially?
I maintain my First Amendment rights to be able to express my own personal views on different issues.
Thank you. I yield back.
I maintain my
Amazing. Her First Amendment rights. What about the First Amendment right of the tough student, the one that was surrounded by those DHS agents, by the FBI agents, and removed from Massachusetts and sent to Louisiana? Or how about the Brown professor? Or how about the kid from Cornell? Now, I don't know whether or not these folks are actually, affiliated in any way, shape, or form to Hamas. They're students, their professor, whatever it might be. If they are, Good riddance. But how about due process rights? How about a First Amendment constitutional right? How about, for example, my constitutional right when they remanded me? Do you remember how many times that I tried to warn, Ben, the American people about different things? How in 2018, before the House Oversight Committee, I warned America that if Trump loses in 2020, that there will never be a peaceful transfer of power. Well, this morning, I kind of at 4 a.m., I had this thought that here comes another prediction, one that's even scarier than that one. And I did my Substack on it, which I called Sphere of Influence or Imperial Delusion. And in it, I want to just say one thing, Ben, and then I kind of want to get your sort of take on this one. Most people don't even understand the concept of the sphere of influence. I believe that Trump right now is trying to distract the American people with all of this DHS stuff, with the tariffs he's placing on Canada and the tariffs now on pharmaceuticals, all of which will increase your costs, not take it away like he said, but increase it. But the sphere of influence is a historical term that is legitimately ripped from the colonial playbook, when imperial powers carved up the world like slices of a pizza pie, all right, deciding who got to dominate where. In this crazy, warped Trump view, this concept is not a historical relic. It is a roadmap for unchecked authoritarian expansion. It's why you are hearing things like, let's take Panama, let's take Greenland, let's annex Canada, let's take over Mexico. It is not just about Putin and Xi Jinping sketching out the borders of their empire. Trump himself envisions his own empire, again, including Canada, Mexico. All right. That, my friends, is what we need to be concerned about, because that is ultimately what Project 2025 is all about.
You know, when it seemed that Donald Trump just assumed with tariffs and the threats that he would get all of these countries in his sphere, as he saw it, that they would fold right away, that he would say tariffs and they would say, we're so, they would become MAGA mush, like the MAGA Republicans have become. And I think he's shocked and pissed and frantic right now that Canada stood up to him. I think he's genuinely shocked at what happened in Canada, where he thought that Trudeau was going to be weak and the Liberals were going to be weak. And meanwhile, the Liberals stood up. They passed the torch to Prime Minister Mark Carney, who's been incredible. The banker in Carney versus the bankrupter in Donald Trump. The Canadian people have rallied. Heck, even the Conservative Premier of Ontario, Doug Ford, distancing himself from Pierre Poilievre, the MAGA-ish, not MAGA-ish, the MAGA Conservative Federal Parliament leader. And even you have Doug Ford saying, yeah, I'm not putting distance between Poilievre, which is a crazy concept that you're having that tension even within the Conservative Party there. But Canadians uniting right now against the United States, the boycott against all things American, Cohen, it's like a 75 to 80% not travel boycott right now. And those numbers as well, when it comes to American products in Canada, they just sit on the shelf.
First of all, 68% of Americans are unhappy with what Trump is doing in terms of tariffs and the conversation that he's constantly attacking Canada. 68% of Americans are unhappy with that. That in and of itself should be enough for them to change course. Now, Ben, I just want to say one thing about this Midas Touch network and why, I put out this Substack, this sphere of influence. I did it because, tell me, has anybody else heard this concept of sphere of influence being talked about on whether it's mainstream media or cable news media? The answer is no. You haven't. Why? Well, because it doesn't play into whatever narrative that they are currently trying to play, which is to be aggressive towards Trump, but in a very respectful way. So in that way, they don't have the FBI, the CIA, NSA, etc., or the Attorney General of the United States come on them. Midas Touch Network, independent, completely different, where people like myself can engage with our viewers, and you can hear from somebody who knows the guy better than anybody else what's going on in this guy's mind. I called it not once, not twice, a handful of times where my predictions, as crazy as people thought that they were, I can't tell you the number of people that sort of made fun of me when I turned around and I said that if Trump loses in 2020, there will never be a peaceful transfer of power. Oh, fuck you, Michael. You're just trying to gaslight. That's hyperbolic. You're just being dystopian, blah, blah, blah. Well, let me remind you of January 6th. Now, I don't care what the GOP wants to call the insurrection. All right. It is what it was. And we all saw it. We all heard what was going on there. And I am freaking nervous that everything that I'm telling you about this sphere of influence is what they are actually trying to accomplish. Slice the world up into different sort of empires, and then you'll have basically 4 or 5 warlords running the entire earth.
I have no doubt that's what Trump wants. Zero doubt. That's clearly, in my opinion, that's clearly what he wants. But what he didn't expect was that Canada was going to stand up the way it did.
Or Greenland.
What he didn't expect was European Union would come together the way they did. He didn't expect in Mexico Sheinbaum to stand up to him the way she did. And to your point, Trump thought he was just going to break the will of Greenland. And they were supposed to be a visit to Greenland on Friday, which the prime minister of Greenland said was a very aggressive and unwelcomed act. And so the Trump regime had its handlers knocking on people's doors in Greenland over the past few days to find a family that would welcome Usha Vance, JD Vance's wife, and JD so they could do a press event. Not one family in Greenland would invite Usha and JD there. There was going to be a massive protest that was going to take place when they arrived. And so the Trump regime canceled its trip to Greenland. JD, Usha, Mike Walls, National Security Advisor, are not going. And look, I do want to say this as well. We stand in solidarity with the Greenlanders who did that. And I want to give credit, though, to the Canadians, because I truly believe that when Trump first attacked Canada and Canada stood up, boycotted, and showed the rest of the world how to do it, to me, then it clicked. And others said, got it, that's the model. That's the model, what Canada's doing. And you can stand up to Donald Trump and he folds. And now Trump's trying to get his, traction back. And, he's does the tariffs, takes away the tariffs, puts the tariffs, takes away the tariffs. The latest is the 25% auto tariffs, which are going to make all of our automobiles here in the United States at a minimum cost $5,000-$10,000 more, which basically means if you go speak to a car dealership, people aren't going to buy cars. At that price point, people don't buy it. And so that's part of the coming Great Recession or even depression that's going to be happening in the United States, as we're going to see a massive contraction. I think Q1, then two successive quarters equals that recession. And consumer sentiment is the lowest it's been in 12 years right now. Trump is flailing internationally. He's flailing domestically. And Cohen, his pathology, when he gets into, he's not good at doing a lot of things. He's good at campaigning because he's a good liar. And he could go around and lie to people.
He tells a great story, and he does it with some humor and some charisma, right? Here's the problem, though. What he's saying is illegitimate. When he turns around, he says, America first. America first should not mean America alone. So when he says that I want to see manufacturing brought back to America. Okay. By the way, I'm all in for that. I agree with you 100%. Show us a plan. Show us a business plan on how we're going to make manufacturing in America affordable, make it possible. He treats building a manufacturing plant like a car, an automobile manufacturing plant. He treats it like the way you turn on and off, a electric switch. Oh, one day, yeah, manufacturing, one day off. That you're talking about, like if it's, you're going, as I said the other day, to Costco or Walmart or a Myers, and you're buying an inflatable manufacturing plant. It takes somewhere between 6 to 8 years to fully assemble a manufacturing plant. So what are they talking about? How are we supposed to, in America, build cars here based off of the systems that exist currently? And the answer is you can't. By the way, you can't manufacture the car without foreign parts because most of the technology is also not manufactured in the United States. So now you have to literally have companies, not just one, but maybe 50 or 100 companies producing 100 different parts that all go into the assembly of this vehicle. See, that's the whole problem. It's stupid, it's moronic, it's buffoonish, and people aren't calling it out. They're like, well, we can't do it. By the way, Americans like cheap goods. Let's just all acknowledge it. It's why Amazon and Costco and Walmart, why they're such big companies, because Americans like cheap goods. You can't afford to manufacture cars here in America at the same price that you could import them for. So, let's stop the stupidity and stop the bullshit. Yes, we would like America to have more of its own manufacturing, but at the same time, we also do need to pay a livable wage, not like the wage that they give in China or in other countries. That's the problem here. We also have unions. They don't. We have workers' compensation. We have insurances. They don't have them there. Everything is different. We allowed this to fall years and years ago because, once again, I'm going to end by saying Americans like cheap goods. And Trump and this administration taking that away from you as well.
There's a reason why Donald Trump has bankrupted so many businesses, though. And the point I was making, too, is that, to your point, he tells a good story because he's a liar. He's a fraud. It's easy to tell a good fraudulent story when you don't give a crap about the consequences and you just lie to people that everything's going to be great and everyone's going to be rich and it's going to be amazing. So it's not hard to be a fraudulent storyteller when that's your direction. But what we know about his pathology historically is when things get bad, he makes them worse. He's not good at dealing with the problem. He compounds the problem by either avoidance, like a miracle, it's going to go away, or by doubling down on the problem and making the problem worse. And so now that these issues have been unleashed, Canada standing up, Europe standing up, Ukraine not bending to Trump's attempt to carve up Ukraine with Russia, Russia not agreeing to the unconditional ceasefire, Zelensky outmaneuvering Trump, I think, with Europe and showing that he wants unconditional ceasefire, but Putin doesn't. So Trump's now flailing. His instinct is to double down on the mistakes. Now, this is where he gets more reckless, and this is what we've seen historically with his companies, where he then makes it worse and doesn't take the steps to have accountability, to avoid the bankruptcy by acknowledging the problem. Let's deal with this. I made a mistake. Let's figure this out. That's how mature people deal with problems, not him. Cohen, 2-finger salute before we go.
Goes to the entire group on that Signal chat, the entire Signal gate, and good for the judge right now who's turned around and has demanded that they preserve all the information on that Signal chat. I don't know whether they'll just take photos of it or what. Now, there you go. He ordered agencies who participated in Signal Gate chat to preserve all Signal messages between the 11th and the 15th of March and to provide an update to the court about their efforts to do so. All right. Good for Judge Boasberg. He is not sitting back and doing nothing. He is actually ensuring that our national archives, that the retention of these documents are kept for the American people as they are required to do. So to each and every one of these buffoons that allowed this stupidity to go on without saying anything, putting our national security, our country, our military in jeopardy, fuck you all.
Michael Cohen's audio podcast, Mea Culpas, featuring Anthony Scaramucci this weekend. Make sure you catch that out. It's the Mea Culpa podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. Search Mea Culpa. Make sure you click the blue one, not the red one. Also, we don't have outside investors, so one way you can help grow this program is through patreon.com/political beatdown, patreon.com/political beatdown. Check it out. Help us grow. And then Michael Cohen and I will soon be announcing when we're going to have our next live. I think I'd like to do it next Tuesday after the show.
I was going to say the same thing. Right
next Tuesday after the show.
So
I'm
subscribe today so that you could be a part of it. We all get to meet each other. Everybody's up on screen. We get to look each other in the eyes, and we get to go ahead and to share with you our positions. We answer your questions so that everybody has an opportunity.
And Jeremy, can you help set that up with the brothers to make sure we post that today? Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you, Brigaders. Appreciate you all. Make sure you subscribe here to our YouTube channel. Check out at the Michael Cohen Show YouTube channel as well. We appreciate you. We're grateful for you. Keep on fighting. You're all doing a really, really great job. You really are. You're hanging in there. You're fighting. I know the hard work you're all doing out there each and every day. Thanks to our mods. Thanks to the Brigaders. Thanks to the Midas Mighty. Reminder, the Brother Show goes live tonight at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific as well. We'll see you next time on Political Beatdown. Shout out Brigaders. Shout out Midas Mighty.
Boom.